American Top 40.
I'm Charlie Van Dyke, sitting in this week for Casey Kasem on American Top 40. Now, our special report on the Vanishing vocal group. I don't mean vanishing altogether, I mean vanishing from the number one spot. Because so far this decade, only one vocal group has hit number one. Now, we're not counting USA for Africa or Dion and Friends because they were one-time gatherings of solo stars. And it's really a surprise for all of us here at American Top 40 when we saw the statistics. In each of the three preceding decades, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, around 18 or 20 different vocal groups hit number one. That's 18 or 20 in each decade, but only one so far in the 80s. Now, vocal groups haven't disappeared from the chart. In fact, hitting the top 10 in this decade have been the Spinners, the Pointer Sisters, Bananarama, the Manhattans, Manhattan Transfer, the Mary Jane Girls, Ray Goodman and Brown, New Edition, the Oak Ridge Boys, Musical Youth, and Shalimar. But only one of them has hit number one in the 80s. They hit just a few months ago with Venus, Bananarama. And we don't have any particular explanation as to why this is happening, but it'll make chart watching a little more fun every time a vocal group gets close to the top. Now, the song at number one last week was by the Bangles, who sound like a vocal group, but they're a full-fledged instrument-playing band, so they don't count as a vocal group who've hit number one. But their current smash has been number one for 4 weeks now, and that's the longest in nearly a year, since That's What Friends Are For by Dion and Friends. Here's the number one song in the land. For the 4th week in a row, Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles. The longest-running number one song of the past 11 months. The most popular song in the USA for 4 weeks now. Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles.
American Top 40.
Now on AT40, with apologies to Marlon Perkins, we're going to look at the wild chart kingdom and a species that's nearly extinct, the Vanishing vocal group. Not bands playing instruments, but vocal groups. Nothing but singers. In the 60s, we had them by the score. I mean, male vocal groups like the Drifters and the Four Tops, the Temptations and the Four Seasons. Female groups like the Crystals, the Supremes and the Shangri-Las. And mixed groups, male and female, like the Fifth Dimension. A total of 21 vocal groups hit number one in the 60s. In the 70s, we had vocal groups like the Jackson 5, who later played instruments as a band, the Bee Gees, the Staple Singers, Gladys Knight and the Pips, just to name a few more. A total of 19 vocal groups hit number one in the 70s. That's only 2 less than the 60s. But in the 1980s, the number of vocal groups on top has dwindled, shriveled to just 2. Both are female trios. One from England hit with the song Venus, Bananarama. The other is from the U.S., from Miami, and they hit number one with Seasons Change, their expose. Now, I do have a footnote here. We did have 2 more vocal groups at number one, but these groups, which featured superstars, came together for just one session to do one song. There was USA for Africa doing We Are the World, and Dion and Friends doing That's What Friends Are For. Neither was a regular act, leaving us with just 2 active vocal groups hitting number one in this decade. Why? Well, that's the kind of question you really can't answer. True, there are fewer vocal groups hitting the charts overall, and we've become so used to the group image of a band playing instruments and not just singing. Maybe that's it. But whatever the reason, vocal groups are a vanishing breed at number one in the 1980s. An AT40 chart observation.
The hits from coast to coast.